Excellency, distinguished delegates and participants, welcome to the closing ceremony of the 18th annual meeting of the Internet Governance Forum. The closing ceremony will begin from 5:35, so please be seated and wait for a moment. Thank you very much for your patience. Excellency, distinguished delegates and participants, I would like to welcome all of you to the closing ceremony of the 18th annual meeting of the Internet Governance Forum. My name is Rebecca, and it is an honor to serve the MC for this ceremony. Before we move on to remarks from the multi-stakeholder representatives as to closing the event of IGF Kyoto 2023, we will have a calligraphy performance and a lecture by Mori Seihan, the head priest of Kiyomizu Temple, one of the most famous temples in Japan. Mori Seihan was born in Kiyomizu, Kyoto in 1940. After graduating from university in 1963, he held various positions, including the chief priest at Shinfukuji Temple and Taisenji Temple. Since 1988, he has been the head priest of Kiyomizu-dera Temple. In Japan, he is also widely known for writing a single kanji representing the year on the stage of Kiyomizu-dera Temple, which is selected through a public ballot in the Kanji of the Year contest sponsored by the Japanese Kanji Proficiency Society. Today, he will write a single kanji that represents IGF Kyoto 2023. So now, please give a round of applause to welcome Mori Seihan, the head priest of Kiyomizu Temple, to stage.
ただいまご紹介をいただきました清水寺の住職でございます。一言ご挨拶を申し上げさせていただきます。本日ここ京都にインターネットに関わる政府関係者、技術者、学者、市民社会にといったあらゆる立場の人たちが集まってこの度インターネットガバナンスフォーラム京都2023年が盛況裏のうちに会議を終え閉会式を迎えられますことを厚く敬意を表する次第でございます。ただいまは絆という字を書かせていただきました。絆という漢字は糸と引きつなぐという意味の通じますところの藩ということからできておりまして、その藩という字が音を表し番となっております。元は馬の足をつなぐ紐、つなぎ止める、束縛するというあまり良くない印象の言葉のようにでありますが、人と人とがしっかり結ぶ絆となりまして好ましい意味に捉えられるようになりました。皆さん方も友情の絆、あるいは夫婦の絆などとよく申しまして良い意味に使われておるかと思います。それが最近大きく変わってまいりましたのは、今から12年前のことでありますが、2011年3月11日、東日本大震災が起こりました。地震、大津波、それに原子力発電所の事故、誠に未曾有の大災害でありました。この時、日本中の人が、あるいは世界中の人が被災地の人たちに寄り添い、助け合おうということをいたしました。その時、絆という言葉が新聞にもテレビにも、そしてインターネットにもあふれました。この言葉が合言葉にいたしまして、みんなが手を取り合って寄り添い助け合おうといたしました。ある会社の調査によりますと、この年の新聞やインターネットなどにいろいろな記事とともに絆という言葉が使われましたのは前の年の2倍になったそうであります。私は毎年年末に日本漢字能力検定協会の募集によって決められておりますその年の象徴する漢字一字、今年の漢字を清水寺で書いて発表いたしておりますが、その2011年の今年の漢字は絆であり、私の予想する通りでありました。その時もう絆という言葉は先ほど申し上げました友情の絆とか夫婦の絆とかといった内々の個人的な人と人との結びつきではなくて、もっともっと広く世界中の人と人が結びつけ、心と心を通わせ助け合っていく意味の絆という漢字になることをさらに願っておるわけでございます。一人として絆から外れることなく、すべての人々が寄り添い後押しする絆になったらと願う次第であります。それはまさにインターネットの素晴らしい働きに重なるものではないでしょうか。この度の会議のメインテーマでありますあらゆる人の後押しをするためのインターネットであります。この世のあらゆるものは縁によって成り立っています。この世の生きているすべての命は周りの命によって支えられています。その支える一つの絆としてインターネットの働きに期待し、さらなるご発展を願う次第でございます。本日は国連主催になります栄えある本会議にお招きをいたしまして、誠にありがたく 御礼を申し上げまして、ご挨拶に変えさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Once again, please give a big round of applause to Priest Modi Seihan. So now we would like to hear our closing remarks from the multi-stakeholder representatives. First of all, we would like to welcome Mr. Watanabe Koichi, the State Minister for Internal Affairs and Communications. Mr. Watanabe, please proceed to the podium.
ご来賓、ご列席の皆様、こんばんは。総務副大臣の渡辺光一でございます。5日間にわたり開催されました IGF 京都会合も閉会となります。本フォーラムの開催にあたって長きにわたりご準備をいただき、成功裏に運営をいただきました。国際連合をはじめ、国内外の IGF 関係者の皆様、そして関係都市である京都の皆様に敬意を表したいと思います。また、ホスト国の政府を代表いたしまして、厚く御礼を申し上げます。また、ご参加いただきました各国政府、国際機関、企業、技術者、学術研究者、市民社会、そして学生の皆様にも重ねてお礼を申し上げます。この5日間、世界中からオンラインを含め、約8000人の方々が参加され、約3000のセッションが開催されました。インターネットに関するさまざまな課題について、幅広い関係者によって実りあるご議論がなされましたことを喜ばしく思います。また、普段はなかなか接することのない方々と交流を深められた方も多くいらっしゃると思います。皆様、この後、再び世界各国に帰られるわけでありますが、この京都での交流が新たな刺激となり、また、後々まで続く仲間としてのつながりとなることをですね、期待してやみません。インターネットは我々の日々の生活、経済社会活動に不可欠なインフラです。インターネットを取り巻く環境の目まぐるしい変化に合わせて、本フォーラムにおける議論も変化を続けていくものと思います。例えば、生成 AI はこの1年、大きな話題となり、本会合でも中心的な話題の一つとなりました。IGF を通じたマルチステークホルダーアプローチによるより良いインターネットの実現に日本としても貢献できたものではないかと考えております。また、来年も世界をリードする議論の場として IGF が受け継がれていくと確信しております。最後になりますが、皆様にはこの後一息ついていただきまして、京都の街、そして日本の文化や食事、おもてなしをご堪能いただきたいと思います。5日間、本当にお疲れ様でした。以上をもちまして、閉会のご挨拶をさせていただきます。皆さん、本当にありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Watanabe. Next, I invite Mr. Kadokawa Daisuke, the Mayor of Kyoto City, to deliver a remark. Mr. Kadokawa, please proceed to the podium.
皆さん、こんにちは。京都市長の門川大作です。世界各国から多くの熱意あふれる研究者の方、政府関係者の方、お集まりいただきまして、本当に活発な議論を重ねていただき、京都から世界に発信していただきました。ありがとうございます。また、開催にご尽力賜ったすべての皆さんに、ご参加の皆さんに、地元を代表して心から敬意を表し、感謝申し上げます。インターネット政策の中でも最も重要なインターネットガバナンスフォーラム、日本で初めてこの京都で開催していただけたこと、私たちの誇りであります。本フォーラムの中で生成 AI など先端技術、またサイバーセキュリティなどさまざまな改善について活発に議論いただきました。これを契機に自由で開かれたインターネットの発展、さらに誰一人取り残さない SDGs の達成も含めたインターネット世界の構築に大きな役割を果たしていただけるものと確信いたしております。さて、京都は1000年を超えて日本の都でございました。美しい自然、さまざまな街並み、誇るべき景観がたくさんございます。これらはインターネットでもご覧いただけますけれども、やはり直接これは見ていただくことが素晴らしいと思います。そしてこの春に東京にありました政府の文化庁が京都に全面的に移転し、京都が150年ぶりに日本の文化の都になりました。そこでは例えば食文化推進本部、あるいは文化と観光推進本部ということが立ち上がりまして、京都から全国に世界に文化で日本中を元気に、文化で世界の人々の幸せと平和に貢献する、そんな取り組みが始まっております。京都は観光でも世界的に高い評価を得ていますが、私は京都の最大の魅力は文化と、そしてものづくり、さらにイノベーションだと思います。例えば1000年を超えて大事にされてきたものづくり、陶器、陶磁器、それがセラミックになり、そしてコンデンサーになっています。例えば印刷や染め物が盛んであります。その印刷技術などが半導体製造装置になっております。あるいは1000年前に仏教を理解していただこうと書かれた鳥獣戯画絵巻、これが世界の漫画のアニメの原点であります。さらには花札、トランプ、人々に楽しんでいただこうと、この会社が世界一のゲームメーカー、任天堂でございます。あるいはお酒、このお酒の技術がバイオテクノロジーに発展しております。私はバイオテクノロジーの発展のためにと毎日お酒を飲んでおります。皆さんもぜひバイオテクノロジーのためにお酒を飲みましょう。はい、ありがとうございます。これらはインターネットでは味わえませんので、ぜひ よろしくお願いします。私どもはインターネットの技術もしっかりと生かしながらものづくり、そしてものづくりからイノベーションを起こしていく。京都は大学の町、学生さんの町であります。人口の1割以上が学生さんであり、そして36の市内に大学があり、1万5,000人を超え、15万人を超える学生が学んでおられます。世界から留学生がお越しになり、留学生の数はこの7年間で 1.6 倍に1万5,000人近くになっていました。このような京都の魅力も感じていただける機会にしていただきたいと思います。なお、インターネットでも京都の魅力は感じられますので、どうぞお帰りになられてもネットで京都の最新情報を感じていただき、よろしくお願いします。京都に5回以上来たという人が約半分です。10回以上来たという人がたくさんおられます。何度京都に来ても新たな魅力が発見できる、まさに皆さんのパートナーのような町であります。どうぞこれからもよろしくお願いします。皆さん方のますますのいやさかをご記念して挨拶をさせていただきます。ありがとうございます。
Mr. Kadokawa, thank you very much. So next I invite Ms. Teresia Alves Brito, CGIBR Youth Programming Fellow, to deliver our remarks. So Ms. Brito, please proceed to the podium.
Konnichiwa. Excellency Minister Koichi Watanabe, distinguished participants, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary people. It is a pleasure to address you on this final day of the IGF, also known as the day our bodies are finally used to the Japanese time zone. I am Teresinha Alves Brito, a lawyer and researcher from Marabá, Pará, in the Brazilian Amazon region. I am a fellow of the youth program held by the Brazilian Internet Steering Committee. And without a doubt, I would not be able to attend this forum by my own resources. Due to that, I want to highlight the value of youth initiatives. At the end of this IGF, it is now even more clear how we need to step up to the many challenges of our time. We named this year's meeting The Internet We Want, Empowering All People. This has been a significant step towards this urgent goal. However, I have not seen sufficient diversity of people and stakeholders, and even of perspectives. It's urgent, and we can do better, whether in internet governance or in the IGF itself. Our struggle in building practical discussion lies on the resistance to recognizing the value of diversity. Therefore, there is a need to take action for a more meaningful multi-stakeholderism, which needs more diversity of gender, race, social class, origin, culture, and age. That is why different perspectives are and have to be seen as essential assets to internet governance. Otherwise, we will not be able to set the effective insights we all need. Secondly, there will exist no free, open, or inclusive internet if we do not commit to addressing climate change and minimize its impact. Addressing climate change is vital to protecting vulnerable communities, especially children and youth in the Global South. from losing their homes and heritage. We are now facing major disasters in Brazil due to unseasonal storms and droughts at the same time. We must remember that no virtual environment will be able to simulate the affection, belonging, and legacy that brings us here. The Amazon forest voice must be heard. In addition, we cannot forget the 2 billion people who continue to be totally excluded from these debates. In 2023, they still have no access to the internet or lack of meaningful connectivity, mostly in the global south. It is the duty of states, but also of the global governance community, to come up with answers to tackle this problem, which is both the result and the amplifier of economic and social inequalities. As youth, we are keepers of yesterday's heritage, but it is not possible to solve problems with the same thinking that caused them. It is already time to have us in the decision-making spots. Finally, I call upon the global youth community. The internet that we want will not be given to us. We have to build it. We are here and we are not leaving. Obrigada. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much, Ms. Brito. Next, I invite Honorable Cedric Frolick, House Chairperson, Oversight and ICT Committees, South African National Assembly, to deliver our remarks. Honorable Frolick, please.
Program Director, Excellencies, Honorable Members of Parliament, the large number of youth, women, representatives from the LGBTQI+ formations, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Firstly, thank you to the organizers and especially the hosts for the superb arrangements and hospitality over the last 5 days that can be best described as a festival of ideas, discussions, and collaboration in the important matters that is facing the world as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. Indeed, there's been very fruitful discussions on the global trends, the initiatives currently underway, as well as futuristic perspectives of artificial intelligence. During his opening address, His Excellency, the Prime Minister Kishida of Japan, gave us insight on the work being done by the G7 countries in the Hiroshima artificial intelligence process. And as legislators in particular, we must follow and analyze this very important development that will probably soon culminate in international guidelines and codes of conduct for developers of advanced artificial intelligence systems. This initiative is very important, necessary, but as a Member of Parliament and legislator from South Africa, I wish to remind us that we should guard against a new digital governance divide between the G7 and the rest of the world. What was absent, particularly in the parliamentary track, is the broader participation of legislators from countries of the G7 on the one hand, and other governments and stakeholders from the BRICS countries who could have been engaged in these important discussions. A new digital divide and what at times are being referred to, especially in Africa, as a new form of artificial imperialism must be avoided at all costs. That is why multilateral forums, such as the IGF, must be utilized as constructive, collaborative platforms to enhance cooperation for the common good of humanity. We must continuously strive to be inclusive in these type of forums by covering the necessary geographic, demographic, and other dimensions in our participation, create more opportunities for youth and women involvement and gender mainstreaming in the work that we do, and further collaborate with the Interparliamentary Union that represent 179 member parliaments in the world. The parliamentary track indeed provided a platform for open discussion and an honest assessment on the role that parliaments must play in shaping digital trust for the internet we want. One buzzword that emerged from this discussion was the need or not for regulation and lawmaking. And indeed, parliamentarians have the responsibility to make laws and to ensure that the national interest is protected. However, whenever we engage in this lawmaking process, we must be very clear as to what do we want to regulate, why do we want to regulate, and who will benefit from the regulation and lawmaking. It must be the citizens of the country who must be protected from possible abuse and infringements of their privacy, who must be at the center. It is thus important that a balance must be struck between regulation on the use and the impact of technology, and on the other hand, the technology itself. Regulation must not stand in the way of new technological developments. That balance must be created. As such, parliamentarians represent the interest of the citizens, and they are entrusted to put the necessary lawmaking mechanisms in place to ensure prosperity, development, and safeguarding the rights and privacy of their citizens. Yes, while we must be aware of harmful surveillance, privacy concerns and breaches, as well as other potential practices, we must be aware of the advantages that can be utilized by our people. This can be prevalent in a number of fields, and it can be overcome by ensuring that we have transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in what we are doing, ensuring that at international level agreements and cooperation and development are clear, and it is clearly understood in the language of the citizens of the world. And we must move towards the development of norms and standards, that is for the politicians on the one hand, but involve all the stakeholders as well as those who are advancing and at the forefront of the development of artificial intelligence. I'm of the opinion that artificial intelligence is not an existential threat that mankind is facing. The devastation caused by climate change-induced natural disasters is the greatest threat to humanity at this stage. Let us use and harness and encourage the use of technology that will improve, amongst other, the forecasting of climate change-induced natural disasters and possible global health pandemics, advance universal health care, ensure gender mainstreaming in all our different programs and processes, and advance digital literacy across the board. I want to conclude by quoting a famous African proverb that says, and I quote, "If we want to go fast, go alone. If we want to go far, go together," close quote. Let us ensure that nobody gets left behind. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Fraulich. Next, I invite Mr. Mahesh Kasar, Senior Vice President of Rakuten Symphony, to deliver our remarks. So, Mr. Kasar, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The United Nations Under-Secretary General, the United Nations General Assembly, Ministry of Internal Affairs Communications, the Kyoto government, excellencies, and the participants of this forum. In last 5 days, we have been discussing in different forums about the internet governance. However, I would like to highlight another aspects of our discussions which we did in last 5 days. In 2011, the United Nations judged the internet as key tool enabling human rights, allowing people to exercise their right of freedom of expression and opinion. Despite the efforts from the world's largest internet players to make the connectivity affordable and accessible, billions of people are not yet online. As my fellow speaker, the Youth Program Fellow, Ms. Teresina mentioned, the internet should be accessible and inclusive. More alarming still is 1 billion of kids do not have access to internet at their home yet. Lacking internet access hampers the development of individual kids. It impacts the progress of the entire swaths of the human race. As an industry, we can and we must do something about this. As my organization, Rakuten, our mission has always been, since the inception, the empowerment of the society. We believe connectivity is key to unleash human potential, and we are committed to bring access to everyone. Since launch of Rakuten Mobile, we have been advocating for the democratization of global telecom industry to enable this change. I'm thrilled to be part of Rakuten team driving the change and innovation within the global telco industry through our world-first fully virtualized Open RAN technology. Through this change, we welcome the opportunity to collaborate the government, the regulators, and entire enterprise organizations to advocate adoption of the Open RAN technology, drive vendor diversity, and establish ecosystem that will enable cost-effective network deployment, which will bring down the cost and make the internet connectivity accessible to billions of unconnected people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kazal. So next, I invite Mr. Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, to deliver remarks. So Mr. Taylor, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am honored to speak this evening, and I had the privilege in 2017, as the then chair of the Barbados chapter of the Internet Society, to lead a multi-stakeholder process that led to the country's first national IGF. We kicked off 2 days of very enriching discussions on various topics, including the issue of what is Internet governance. We also used the opportunity to pay tribute to 2 people. One was Bernadette Lewis, who is now the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Telecoms Organization, the CTO. We honored her pioneering spirit as the first female Secretary General of the CTU, a feat she has gone on to achieve for the CTO as well, the first female of the CTO's 120-year history. We honored her for her leadership also for the first Internet Governance Forum in 2005, which was done at the request of the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM. We say it's the oldest IGF on record, and we will celebrate 20 years in 2024. You will forgive me if I say this every time I'm given access to a microphone, but we are very proud of this fact. The Caribbean IGF has produced a policy framework that serves to guide our member states on matters of internet policy. This is the kind of approach for concrete outcomes contemplated in the options for the future of global digital cooperation, which seeks to strengthen the IGF process, the so-called IGF+. We also honored another person by the name of Alan Emptage, In 1989, Alan Emptage conceived of and implemented Archie, the world's first internet search engine. In doing so, he pioneered many of the techniques used by public search engines today. He is a Barbadian, and we're also proud to celebrate his achievements. Alan, who is one of the founding members of the Internet Society, was subsequently inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame in 2017. We interviewed his parents and did a short video production at the time. They said they had no clue what he was doing, but realized it was something serious when he started to travel the world and started rubbing shoulders with the likes of Tim Berners-Lee, Vint Cerf, and John Postel. I mention these examples as testimony to the fact that in complex and interconnected global challenges, solutions are often best developed by involving a wide range of perspectives and expertise. This is one of the reasons that the CT has sought to champion the voice of small island developing states, or SIDS, to strengthen the collaboration, particularly in this area of digital governance and digital diplomacy, not just here, but in other spaces such as ICANN, ITU, and the Global Digital Compact, among others. Last year, we hosted the first SIDS IGF and are advocating for a focus on digital governance in the upcoming 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States, or SIDS-4, that takes place in Antigua and Barbuda in May 2024, ahead of the Summit of the Future. Just today, we hosted an open forum on IGF and the road to GDC, bringing a SIDS perspective to the issue of the future of internet governance and what has worked for small states and what has not. There's a temptation for governments to laud the existing multilateral processes where, for all intents and purposes, one country has one vote irrespective of size. The multi-stakeholder process, on the other hand, while open and inclusive, still requires significant resources in order to participate meaningfully. Just yesterday in this room, at the leadership panel, I raised the issue of greater support and greater linkages with the NRIs and consideration of how we may take a forum of this scope and scale, in whole or in part, to a small state, which could help to raise the profile of the discussions with the stakeholder group and mobilize human and financial resources to bolster their ongoing participation. As we move closer to the Global Digital Compact and subsequently WSIS Plus 20, let us see this as an opportunity to renew our commitment to work together. The IGF process has not been perfect, but it provides a platform for all of us to make our voices heard, to share, to network, and to learn from each other. Collectively, we can come up with solutions to cybersecurity challenges, the digital divide, diversity, child online protection, regulation or not of AI, and the list goes on. This is the Internet Governance Forum that we want to give us the internet that we need. Let me close by expressing my appreciation to our host, the government of Japan, for your excellent facilitation and hospitality. Japan has been a friend of the Caribbean, and in fact, the first time I came to Japan more than 20 years ago, it was with the support of the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, or JICA. And the knowledge I gained then from that study tour has helped me in my professional capacity and development to this day. Thank you also to the leadership panel for this opportunity to address you as we close the 18th IGF. Arigato gozaimasu. I hope I said that correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. So next, I invite Ms. Sylvia Cadena, the Acting Chief Executive Officer, APNIC Foundation, to deliver our remarks. So please proceed to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Cadena, and I'm the Acting CEO of the APNIC Foundation. I am honored to be speaking to you today on behalf of the technical community. Let me start by expressing my sincere appreciation to the government of Japan, the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, Watanabe-san, and Vice Minister Yoshida-san, and in particular Ida-san and their teams. We are extremely grateful for their efforts and commend them for an impeccable logistical execution. It is our hope that the IGF leaves a long-lasting legacy that helps to grow the interest and participation from the Japanese community so that we can hear more from Japan in future Internet governance discussions. The technical community is responsible for the development and functioning of the single interoperable Internet. Collectively, it shares an obligation to steward Internet number resources, protocol development, unique identifiers management, core infrastructure components, and others, which results in its stable, reliable, and resilient operation. It is important to emphasize its success as it continues to evolve and adapt as shown in our response to the COVID pandemic. Over the years, the technical community has pledged support for the multi-stakeholder model of Internet governance. We are calling all stakeholders to renew their commitment once more and to show support for the institutions and processes that keep the Internet working and operating, as their stability and health is of paramount importance to the global community. The technical community shares a history of seeking alignment with different stakeholders by promoting discussions and active collaboration. At the recent African Internet Summit, some of the work the regional Internet registries do to support Internet development was presented, including our support to provide funding for capacity building, research, and deployment. On that, I would like to thank the IGF for providing here the perfect scenario to award 3 outstanding organizations contributing to the development of Internet exchange points in Myanmar, Pakistan, and Malaysia this week. Such initiatives require active engagement and collaboration from civil society organizations that continue to be further refined. I would like to include the recommendations from the Scoping Civil Society Engagement in Digital Cooperation session that was held on day 0 from this excerpt. More proactive engagement of the technical community is required. The GDC should not reflect a narrow scope of our understanding, as the range of policy discussions reflect the range of issues relevant to Internet governance. At the session, civil society representatives caution against this politicization, especially in relation to the constant voluntary technical cooperation that sustains its open and secure architecture. In closing, I would like to leave you with a personal note of thanks. I have been involved in the IGF processes for almost 2 decades and consider one of the highlights of my professional career to have served as a member of the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. This is a space that can be fixed, that can be improved, but I treasured. And as it has afforded me the unique opportunity to contrast views, expand my understanding, and build an invaluable network of people that continue to work tirelessly for the development of the Internet. Our work is not done, and I invite you to continue it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cadena. Next, I would like to introduce a video from Mr. Denis Francis, President of the United Nations General Assembly.
Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in today's fast-evolving digital landscape, technology presents us with both awesome opportunities and indeed challenges. On the one hand, it can be a force for good and progress in our world. On the other, it can cause devastating harm, both online and offline. Ultimately, the decision on how to strike a delicate yet pragmatic balance on the use of technology is vested in our hands as the ultimate consumers of technology. In order to empower all people, our priority must be to close the digital divide and to establish the necessary guardrails. The increasing disparity between technological haves and have-nots is one of the most formidable challenges of our times. Indeed, the accessibility and affordability of technology is exacerbated by pre-existing inequalities. A mere 57% of women use the internet, with a staggering 1.1 billion women in middle and low income countries lack access to mobile internet. It is disheartening that when online, women face 27 times more sexual harassment, defamation, and hate speech than their male counterparts. Beyond the digital divide, misinformation, disinformation, and egregious falsehoods spread like wildfire online and have been responsible for catastrophic consequences by fueling conflict and mass atrocities. Friends, we cannot let the internet be a lawless realm. A stringent internet regulatory framework is imperative to enforce digital accountability. This framework should be developed in close cooperation with all stakeholders, including governments, private sector, international and civil society organizations. I am convinced that the Digital Compact will offer a unique opportunity to address vital aspects of digital cooperation, including artificial intelligence, transfer of technology, and a human rights perspective to new technologies, contributing to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Achieving our ambitions will require a thorough overhaul of our data governance and promoting data literacy among users and decision makers alike. We need more events like this one, bringing together stakeholders from cross-cutting fields. I am therefore immensely grateful to the government of Japan for pioneering this initiative. With the rapid pace of change, we cannot afford to be playing catch-up while the world changes around us. I sincerely welcome this discussion, and I encourage all participants to couple it with concrete action, which I have no doubt your fruitful discussions will engender. I thank you.
And next, I would like to play a closing remark video from Mr. Junfa Lee, Under Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs.
Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The last 5 days have been intensive, inspiring, and rewarding. I'm pleased to witness that by myself. I'm equally pleased to join you here on the closure of the 18th Internet Governance Forum. By all standards, the Kyoto IGF has been a record, with over 8,500 registered participants from over 175 countries across all continents of the world. We are joined by over 100 ministers, parliamentarians, and chief executives, and thousands of stakeholders from all levels representing this diverse community, including women and youth. Over 160 national, regional, and youth IGF initiatives, and 35 IGF remote hubs have allowed hundreds, if not thousands more, online participants to contribute to this forum. But numbers are, of course, not enough. From these numbers, emerging important outcomes, insights, and key messages, as well as forward-thinking actions and policies. I invite you to review and reflect these important outcomes. First, the Kyoto IGF messages. Second, the 18 IGF summary report. Third, outcome documents of the IGF Parliamentary Track and the Global Youth Summit. And fourth, over 300 insightful session reports you have put together. I urge you to translate these outcomes into actions through your respective constituency, your government, your communities, and your institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the past 18-year journey of the IGF has been a remarkable one. Thanks to the hallmark process of the IGF, let us bottom up, inclusive multi-stakeholder participation and engagement. The next 2 years will be crucial before the WSIS Plus 20 and the review of the IGF's mandate by General Assembly of the United Nations. Let me remind you the 3 questions I put before you at the opening. First, has the IGF delivered on its mandate and purpose? Second, how can the Internet better support and accelerate the achievement of the SDGs? Third, how can the IGF best support both the preparation of and the follow-up to the Global Digital Compact and the Summit of the Future? Witnessing our collective efforts here in the past week, I'm confident that IGF is indeed delivering on its aim and objectives. Together, let us do more, empowering more countries and all stakeholders from an inclusive and equitable digital future for all, optimizing opportunities and managing risks. Thank you, all of you, here in Kyoto or virtually across the world. Last but not least, on behalf of the United Nations, I once again express our immense gratitude and profound appreciation to the government of Japan for its generosity and hospitality as our host. Looking ahead, from Kyoto to Riyadh, I extended our support to our next host, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, UNDESA, stands ready to support you fully. Goodbye, Kyoto. See you in Riyadh next year.
And at last, we will show you a video from the government of Saudi Arabia on IGF 2024.
Communication is a primary endeavor for human beings, from the initial cries made by babies in their cribs to how we communicate through the internet. It is a part of almost every aspect of our lives. The internet provides a limitless communication space for people, one filled with opportunities that allow everyone to explore their creativity, inspirations, and curiosity to learn. The internet weaves contrasting threads together, narrows distances between people, and ultimately shapes memorable experiences. But what lies ahead for the internet? The internet can drive hope and inspire dreams of a more promising tomorrow, one where people turn their creative energy into reality. The multiple opportunities of the internet are within our grasp. This is an invitation for a collective endeavor to shape a legacy today for future generations tomorrow. With open arms, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia welcomes the world to the Internet Governance Forum 2024 in Riyadh.
Excellency, distinguished delegates and participants, we are now approaching to the end of the closing ceremony. And allow me to extend our appreciation on behalf of the United Nations and the government of Japan to all attendees of your active participation and productive exchange of view. So before you depart, kindly ensure you have all your belongings with you, and please also be sure to hand over the receiver to the staff at the exit door when you leave. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Once again, thank you very much for your attendance, and see you all at IGF 2024.